welcome back to Gardening Through the Week. I'm going to be your host, Katie Askelson, and for today's episode, we're going to be learning about how to build your own compost bin. But before we do that, we're actually going to show you some footage of what our plants look like that we planted last week. Here's what our plants look like. It's been about a week and a day. As you can see, quite a few of them sprouted up. As you can see, almost all of our squash has sprouted up, quite a few of our corn, and our beans have gotten really pretty tall. Next week, our plan is to show you guys how to build a raised bed so you can get your plants into the ground. But before we do that, we're going to learn how to make a compost bin. Now you might be thinking to yourself, what is composting and why is it so important? Well, compost is organic material that can be added to soil to help plants grow. Food scraps and yard waste together currently make up more than 28% of what we throw away and should be composted instead. Making compost keeps these materials out of landfills where they take up space and release methane, a potent greenhouse gas. Composting not only creates great food for your garden, but also helps the environment. Some benefits of composting are: it enriches the soil, helps retain moisture and suppress plant diseases and pests. It also reduces the need for chemical fertilizers. The less chemicals in the ground, the better. It also helps encourage the production of beneficial bacteria and fungi that break down organic matter to create humus, which is a rich, nutrient-filled material. And lastly, it helps reduce methane emissions from landfills, which helps lower your overall carbon footprint. Now, there are so many different ways to compost. You can either have it in a normal plastic bin, it can be inside or outside, it can be in trash cans, it can be what's called vermicomposting where you use worms. Really, there's so many different ways to compost. But my biggest advice to you is to compost what's going to be the easiest and best way for your family. If you don't have a lot of space, maybe you want to have a composting bin that you can keep inside. If you have more space, maybe you want a larger compost so you can produce more compostable soil. It really is up to you. What's so cool about vermicomposting is that there's two really good benefits. You can get what's called compost tea, and this is actually liquid that comes out of your compost that comes from the worm casings, and you can use it in spray bottles to spray your plants, and it actually helps reduce the pests. You also get what's called black gold, which are the worm casings. Worm casings are such a good source of nutrients and microbials that are excellent for plants, and they love it. Now, I know that composting can be a little intimidating, especially because there's so many different ways to do it, but we're going to show you guys how to do it really easily and simply. It really doesn't take a lot of materials, and it really doesn't take a lot of time to do. What we're going to make today is a 5-minute compost bin. But before we get started, we need to learn about what we can compost and what we can't. So the best thing about composting is that you can actually use the food scraps that are in your fridge or that come from the meals and put it in your compost bin. One thing you use is fruits and vegetables. That's going to be the main component. The seeds that are in there, they actually might start growing. So do you know that can happen? You can also use eggshells. But make sure that they are pretty small and ground down because you don't want them to hurt any of the worms that might be going into your compost. Coffee grounds are great, and so are filters, but you want to make sure that you're using only non-bleached filters. Tea bags, you just have to remove the staple. Nutshells, which need to be crushed. Shredded newspaper, just making sure you're not using the slick sheets, but just the normal newspaper. You can use cut up cardboard, shredded paper, yard trimmings, as long as they don't have any types of herbicides or pesticides on them, grass clippings, houseplants, hay and straw, leaves, sawdust, wood chips, cotton and wool rags. And what's so cool about the cotton and wool rags is that if you use cotton pads to remove your makeup or to do or cotton balls, you can actually use these for compost. You can also use dryer and a vacuum cleaner lint, and small amounts of hair and fur. Now, of course, there's some things that you can't use and that you might want to stay away from. One of these things is going to be black walnut tree leaves or twigs. This actually releases substance that might be harmful to plants. You want to make sure you're not using coal or charcoal ash, which might contain substances harmful to plants as well. You don't want to be using any animal products such as dairy, so no dairy products such as butter, milk, sour cream, yogurt, and eggs. Obviously not the eggshell, but the eggs themselves. This can create odor problems and attract pests such as rodents and flies. You also don't want to put any diseased or insect-ridden plants in your compost because it might cause problems for your other plants that you're using the compost for. Additionally, you don't want to use fats, grease, lard, or oils. These can create odor problems and attract pests such as rodents and flies. No meat or fish bones and scraps. Again, you'll have some odor problems and you can attract pests as well. No pet waste, especially dog or cat feces or soiled cat litter. This can contain parasites, bacteria, germs, pathogens, and even viruses that might be harmful to humans. And you want to be careful with lawn trimmings that they're not treated with pesticides. Okay, so what we're going to need for this is some food scraps. We're going to use a drill and some drill bits. We're going to need some water for some moisture, and we're going to need a big bin. We're also going to use some soil as well as some dried leaves. Unfortunately, I thought I was filming when I was drilling most of these holes, but I forgot to hit record. So you're going to see the end of me drilling holes on the top of the bin. You want holes in order to get some oxygen. That way we can help increase the levels of aerobic bacteria, which are bacteria that love oxygen. The more aerobic bacteria you have, the less likely you are to have your bin smelling bad. You're going to want to be putting in as many holes as you can. This does take quite a bit of grunt work, so you might have to take some breaks, but just make sure you're using a small drill bit. And before you ever start this project, make sure you get parental permission. And if you're not sure how to use a drill, then you want to either make sure that your parent is helping you learn or they are doing it for you, just so that you're being safe. After you're done drilling holes on the top, you're going to flip your bin over and you're going to drill a bunch of holes on the bottom as well, just so that there's a way for more air to get in. And this will also allow a way, if there's any worms, for them to be able to get into your bin. Worms are great for helping decompose your compost and helping just further along the compost method. All right, now it's time to make our compost. So the first part of this is we're gonna put a bunch of dried leaves. I know it rained recently, so that might be kind of hard to find, but you're gonna wanna put a lot of them at the bottom and you're going to crumple them up. The next layer of your bin is going to be some soil. I'm using some potting soil. Really, you can use any soil that's in your garden bed or some compost, just to add some organic matter and to add some nutrients to your compost. Our next and final layer is going to be our food scraps. So what I have here is a bunch of old herbs as well as some veggie scraps from a meal that I'm putting in here. And you want to make sure that there's no stickers, or I found some rubber bands on some of the herbs, so I had to take all those off. Those are inorganic materials, so they're not going to be able to break down in our compost. But other than that, you want to make sure to get all that really good organic material in there. I'm also going to tear up my food scraps as well. That way they will be able to break down a little bit easier. The next steps are I'm going to mix up my compost bin just to make sure that everything is incorporated together, and I will also spray it down just to get it wet to get it started. Lastly, I ended up adding a little bit more soil to it so that there's a better soil to food scrap ratio. So about once a week we're going to put some more food scraps in here and just put some more dirt in there, mix it around, just so that everything gets decomposed and becomes really good compost. Now you're gonna wanna make sure you put it in a sunny spot, just kind of like how we did here. That way you'll get some heat and the organic matter in there will start to break down more and it will become soil faster.